Good afternoon and welcome to another amazing episode of Peace Zone with Peace Ambassadors on your favorite channel, KAFTAN TV Abuja. And just like I always ask you, how are you doing today? I hope you are peaceful with yourself, others, and the environment. Hope you're ensuring justice, security, and development in your spaces. I'm Moses Abolade, your peace building facilitator and host. And just as I've been telling you about the need for us to sponsor and engage more as partners on this show, is important for us to do that so that this show can be sustainable and it can also reach wider audience. And you can do that from the number that will be showing on your screen, which is +234 8109 661910. However, you can also reach out via email that are also displaying. So on this episode, you realize that recently we have been talking about this conflict situation in northern Nigeria, and last week we dealt with Taraba State, and we have also looked at southern Kaduna. But this week we'll be looking straight into what is happening in ADAMAWA State and the crisis that has bewildered the state for like 2 or 3 decades now. And also today we have a guest who is joining in, I think from Gombe State, but is also one of the border states with ADAMAWA, and I will be giving a brief introduction about him so you know how well he's connected with this particular state. With me today is Professor Indaliman Alhaji Azan. He holds a PhD in political science and has been lecturing for several years. He started his lecturing career at ADAMAWA State University, Technical Political Science and Public Administration as an assistant lecturer in the year 2005. So you see how well he has been well-drenched in what is going on in that particular state. He has served as head of department, deputy dean of same school, and is currently an associate professor and head of the Department of Political Science in Federal University, Kashiri. I just hope I pronounced that well, Gombe State. Professor Azan is an author, co-author, and editor of so many books, a man well interested in politics and peace, and has contributed in different ways to ensuring that peace is achieved in different communities in northeast Nigeria. Welcome, Prof. And is joining me via phone call. You're welcome, Professor. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. So it's good to have you here. And how has been Gombe State?
Gombe is peaceful, sir.
And how is ADAMAWA that we are discussing today?
Yes, Adamawa is literally peaceful too.
Okay. We are glad to know that. So I'll give a particular background, then I'll be bringing you aboard to give some answers to some of these questions. Now, this Day Life newspaper have stated that ADAMAWA, Borno, and Yobe, which is popularly known as the Bay State, have been ranked as the 3 most dangerous states to travel. So due to the level of insecurity brooding from these 3 areas or 3 states. Adamawa is one of the states that experience a lot of insecurity types, almost causing the state to be in abandonment to some people. This Day Life also reports the UN Information Center also make another statement saying that there are over 223,910 displaced persons in Adamawa State with high risk of food insecurity around or across the state. I would like us to know from your own experience with Adamawa State, generally what has been the background of this conflict, root causes, to give a pure description of what is going on in Adamawa State.
Now, in the 1990s down to the year 2000s, Adamawa State has had experience of ethnic and religious conflicts, particularly in Michika area and Numan area. And these are all identity issues of religion. And this has caused a lot of destruction of lives and property in the state. But due to intervention of well-meaning stakeholders, the emirs, the Muslim Council, and the Christian Association of Nigeria, those areas with hotspots of conflict have been successfully resolved. But the potential area that really sparked serious violence in Adamawa was Boko Haram because of its proximity to Borno State.
Okay.
The Adamawa Northern Senatorial District was taken over by Boko Haram in 2014-2015 period. Michika, Madagali, Mubi North, Mubi South, down to Gombe and even Song were under the siege of Boko Haram. Similarly, they took attacks to Yola and even Numan and even Ganye local government area. But when the government of Muhammadu Buhari came to power, there was synergy and efforts by the military forces, and all the local government they seized were taken away by the government, and now they are fully controlled by the people of those areas. Of course, the Boko Haram invasion led to serious displacements of people. For example, in Mubi, thousands of people left Mubi in 2014 and trekked long distance. Many people died on the way. At the end of the day, many of them migrated to Kano, Kaduna, Gombe, and some other parts of Nigeria. In Yola, for example, there are two displaced camps, Malkohi and Yola. So these camps, in Fufure too, had housed thousands of people who are displaced by Boko Haram from Adamawa Northern Senatorial District. But because of the intervention of the security forces, the issue has been so much reduced, and many people have gone back to their homes and towns to live their normal life. So at this point in time, unlike Kaduna, Taraba, and Plateau states, Adamawa state is relatively peaceful, except of recent, in which there was a border conflict between communities bordering Adamawa and Gombe. Buyuk and Cham in Gombe had a dispute on land. But even that too, the government sent in security forces and they have calmed down this situation. There's also ongoing dialogue between the stakeholders in those communities. And the issue has really been resolved so far.
Well, thank you very much for that. More of like a trend analysis, if I must say. And so let's look at it. What are the effects so far? I know you've touched on some of those, especially with what's happening in Mubi and other places. But I want us to look at the effect on children, women, and other people that have been affected by this conflict, and even religious sites or other places that might have been affected through what has happened through the Boko Haram insurgents.
Yes, one of the tactics used by Boko Haram from the onset was to bomb churches and kill Christian followers, and that was aimed at teaching Muslims against Christians. But unfortunately, people understood that particular method, and it didn't lead to serious conflagration between Muslims and Christians in Adamawa State. But in the course of that particular methodology used by Boko Haram to distract attention, many churches were burned and many Christians died in Adamawa State. More so again, many of the schools were closed, particularly in the Senatorial District, as children were displaced from going to school. Women could not go to hospital, and the people lost their sources of living because of displacement. So people become beggars in the camps. People become beggars in other people's houses, and this does not go down well with human personality. So Boko Haram really did a lot of havoc, particularly in terms of suicide bombing of mosques, of markets, of motor parks, and even schools. So this has brought a lot of fear and uncertainty in the minds of people of Adamawa State. But thanks be to God, that situation has been resolved because of the activities of security forces.
Thank you very much for that too. And I will briefly share some of those things that we have here. Uh, and I also acknowledge the fact that you said resolution has been taking place due to the kinetic forces, as some people will put it, using the military to really step down that crisis. However, just like I was asking, the effect of this, the report by the Guardian newspaper in June 2022, thank God we have moved past that, but I want us to look at that because it's a forecast. Now, that over 4.1 million persons risk food security in Adamawa State. Can you explain if the situation, is a forecast? What has been the outcome of that? Presently now, are there food security challenges being experienced in Adamawa State?
Yes, the reason for the food insecurity is that there are still pockets of Boko Haram members who go around some villages to threaten people. They do not allow people to go to the farm, and on the basis of that, it has dropped food output. And that is the link between food insecurity and farming.
Okay.
So there are continuous movements in interior villages, and that is where real farming is taking place. And that is why food output has greatly reduced and invariably affecting food supply in our market and what goes to people's tables as food, and then consequent cost of food items.
Okay. So can we just look at, thank you for that, because I'm happy that you've delved into the issue of food, because food is important to any other things we are going to do, no matter what the situation is. So I would like to know, presently, what has been the situation of Adamawa and the northern Nigeria generally, because I know it's more of a border town with different other states and other regions. How has it been generally in the northern Nigeria? Okay, go ahead, sir.
As I told you earlier, unlike Taraba, Plateau and Kaduna states, Adamawa state is relatively peaceful.
Okay.
To be very firm and affirmative.
Okay.
One of the reasons why there's peace in Adamawa is some of the major ethnic groups like Fali, Chamba, Keluba, Marigi have a mixture of Christians and Muslims. You see, one family, there are Muslims and Christians. In the same village, kids and kings are Christians and Muslims. So there's no way they can face each other and fight each other.
Okay.
And there's also intermarriage between the ethnic groups. So that has gone a long way in ameliorating and mitigating conflicts in Adamawa State.
Okay.
Then in the overall northern Nigeria, for example, in Kaduna, Plateau, and Taraba, there are serious issues of identity politics and identity of religion and ethnic groups.
Okay.
And this has gone a long way in exacerbating conflicts in those areas, which Adamawa has no such experience. So that distinguishes Adamawa from other northern Nigerian states where conflict is right now going on, like Farmer Hada and others. Even though there are pockets of Farmer Hada clashes in Adamawa state, but it is not pronounced because it's at limited scale. Because of the understanding among the people, and the emirs are doing their best. The Muslim Council, Christian Associates for Nigeria there's a dialogue, interfaith dialogue among the different groups in the Adamawa state. So that has gone a long way in bringing about peace in Adamawa state.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that clarification and for that news about the relative peace in Adamawa State. We'll go quickly on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue about what modalities Adamawa State is using to maintain peace at this moment, so that other states can also look at that. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to the conversation on Peace Zone, and we have been discussing with Professor Indalima from Adamawa, discussing issues on Adamawa State and looking at the crisis and exposing what the conflict situation is. And we are glad to know that the state is currently experiencing relative peace. But we also know that there have been a lot of displaced persons due to what have happened in the past. And I'm here with Prof to discuss what has been the interventions by the stakeholders in the state or from different other non-state actors that really help Adamawa to be in a relative peace mode right now. Prof, are you there?
Hello, sir. Yeah, I'm there, sir.
Yeah, so...
Now,
okay.
there are activities of NGOs.
Okay.
For example, the Red Cross,
okay,
they are working very well to help displaced persons, give them loans, medical attention, and there's also the plan, it's an NGO too. They are working assiduously to help people in rural areas. There is also the Danish Refugee Agency.
Okay.
They are helping to construct water pumps, provide sanitation for rural people.
Okay.
And UNICEF is working hardly in providing educational materials for pupils in primary schools and students in secondary schools. More so again, there is effort by NEMA too, in providing food for displaced persons and arranging for the movement of displaced persons back to their communities.
Okay.
More so again, there is an entrenched security surveillance in Adamawa State by the Air Force and the Nigerian Army.
Okay.
And of course, there are also checkpoints in certain areas where Boko Haram activities are still ongoing, particularly in the areas bordering Adamawa and Borno State. Okay. Places like Gombe, places like the area, you find security checks are there as you are moving towards Adamawa to ensure that bad eggs do not go into the state. And again, we have as I told you earlier on, the Muslim Council in Adamawa State and KAN in Adamawa State, there's interfaith dialogue and community campaigning by the Emir of Mubi, the Emir of Ganye, the Lamido of Adamawa, the Hamabachama. They are always meeting from time to time to discuss issues that affect security in the state and ensuring that there's understanding among the people to ensure lasting peace in Adamawa State.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. And I'm glad you have also touched on some of the federal might used to resolve this conflict. But can we also look at what is the state government doing alongside all these other non-state actors so far? What are they doing? And possibly the transition, does it really affect anything? And if it has done, so how well is it affecting the relative peace we have right now in Adamawa State? Yes,
the state government is making efforts to renovate health centers destroyed by Boko Haram insurgents, particularly in Northern Territorial District.
Okay.
Health centers that were also affected. They are sending medical teams to those areas. They are providing fertilizer and agri improved seeds for farmers.
Okay.
The government is also making efforts to ensure that there are motorable links between villages and urban areas for the transportation of goods. Ensure that those displaced by Boko Haram are well rehabilitated and taken care of so that they can resume their normal life. All these are part of the efforts made by Adamawa State government, both before this particular administration and now.
Okay. So as an academic and also as a peace building practitioner who is also involved on field sometimes on this conflict situation, what do you think we can do better to also ensure post-conflict peace building exists in these axis, in this flag point, so that we don't have recurrence of this violence in the future?
Yes, my suggestions and recommendations are government should live up to its own responsibility as the piloter of economic and social services for the people. There should be adequate avenues for employment opportunities for the teeming masses. Because when masses are unemployed, they become easy recruits, pulled for recruitment by these insurgent groups.
True.
So employment opportunities should be made available by both private and the public sectors. Skills acquisition centers should be put in place. Loans should be given to teeming masses to be self-employed, so that they cannot be available recruit for these particular insurgents. More so again, there is need for a continuous and protracted campaign to sensitize people, particularly religiously, that terrorism is not part of Islam. It's not part of Christianity. No religion encourages terrorism. It abhors terrorism. Terrorism is an ideology that is founded in terms of our people who feel that they want to bring about change for selfish reasons. But it's not part of religion. So what Boko Haram is doing is un-Islamic, and that those who do not have the real knowledge of Islam should be educated to know that Islam does not want terrorism, and therefore it is against Islam. Again, there should also be sustained effort by stakeholders to ensure that out-of-school children are taken back to school, so that it is only through that they can be able to have a sense of belonging and not feel marginalized in the society.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that. Can you hear me, Prof?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for that. There are several points I've noted here, especially as regards economic empowerment. Your parting words for peace actors on field right now, maybe in 1 or 2 sentences before we call it a wrap.
Empowerment?
I said your parting words for peace actors on field, maybe in 1 or 2 sentences.
So the relative peace in Adamawa should be a quintessence for other states in northern Nigeria. The harmony and peaceful coexistence through social exchange and tolerance will go a long way in bringing about peace. And government should also do everything possible to ensure economic well-being for the people, so that in order to discourage to people who would like to join the bandwagon of violence in northern Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you so much. Our guest, Professor Indaliman Alhaji Hassan, who has worked in Adamawa and also currently in Gombe State, who join in via virtually, and he has been talking to us about this. And thank you, Prof. I hope that when we call upon you again for a section like this, I know you oblige us.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. To viewers at home, thank you for joining in for this episode. And just like I said when we started, this show needs partnership. You can do that by the number showing on your screen. And deepest appreciation goes to KAFTAN TV management team, Abuja, the management of PepNet and P-Zone Project crew in general. And also to all people on field doing wonderful work for peace building. I want to say thank you and keep doing what you're doing. It's adding value to our planet. Join us again next time on another interesting episode of P-Zone on KAFTAN TV. Ensure you stay peaceful, ensure you stay safe, ensure you stay developed. I'm Moses Abolade. Bye for now.